Hello guys, it's Pedro. And in today's video I'd like to talk about something that I've been noticing more and more, sort of like a trend. Might not be a trend, but feels like it to a certain extent, especially more prevalent and relevant these days with the current situation in which the industry is, which I understand. But what I'm talking about here is the accumulation of titles that people present themselves as, which inevitably leads to the career yo-yo, which I'll try to unpack a little bit here. Before delving into this, I want you to know that I'm fully aware that different countries operate differently. Bigger companies operate differently from smaller companies. I work mainly in bigger companies, in big companies, in the biggest in the world, but I also worked in mid-sized companies, so I totally understand. I've worked with people that came from both sides of the spectrum regarding what I'm talking about. So independently of where you find yourself in, what I'm about to say still stands, okay? So what is the career yo-yo, first of all? So career yo-yo is the inability of the individual to secure an ascending career trajectory. So in VFX, what this means is that people have like a senior role, for example, then they grow into a lead role, then they drop again as a senior role, then goes into a supervision role, then goes back to a senior role, then goes back to a lead, and it goes like this. Okay, so this is the career yo-yo I'm talking about. And one of the aspects of why this happens, perhaps, is a little bit self-inflicted. It's always self-inflicted, by the way, but what I'm talking about is the accumulation of titles that sometimes I see, and I see more and more, it seems. Maybe it's because I'm more aware of the situation, but I think there's definitely an increment of the number of people that have this in their profiles. What I'm talking about is people that have in their profiles things like, for example, roto artist, lead compositor, compositing supervisor, VFX supervisor. All of that stuff in just one line, right? So what is that a problem, by the way? Well, it's a problem because accumulating various titles means that you have no direction. You know, there's a constant lack of focus, it seems, on what you want for your life, professional life, how you see yourself, and what is the direction that you want to take for your own life, right? And take that from someone who hired and managed hundreds of people at the highest level. And every time that I would see something like that, fairly or unfairly, I would put that person in the bucket. And I promise you that's exactly what happens independently of who's on the other side, whether it's me or someone else, okay? So the reason why this happens, and you also do that, by the way, in different settings, when you're talking with friends, or when you're meeting someone for the first time, or whatever, okay? Everybody does that unconsciously. So the reason why this is a problem on a professional setting, it's because you don't build credibility by accumulating titles like this. And again, take this from someone who's been on the other side, hiring hundreds of people and managing hundreds of people, right? So these roles, and I think this is like a first important step for you to realize of why this is a problem. These roles, they mean completely different things. They mean completely different things in terms of like responsibilities. They mean different things in terms of like expectations. And they mean different things in terms of like money, salaries, right? So if you are accumulating that kind of stuff, like different titles like this, completely like this, as I said before, on your profile, when you're presenting your profile to someone else, then that person doesn't know how to look at you. Are you just taking whatever it comes your way? Are you specializing in one of these areas? What is it that you want? What are your expectations? They don't know, right? So, I mean, it's difficult for you to build credibility when you are the one presenting yourself like this. And that also means that you are perhaps having difficulty in building your expertise in one of these areas as opposed to all of them, right? Because all of them mean different stages of your career, first of all. Second of all, means many different things in terms of like all the things that I said before, responsibilities, expectations, money, all that kind of stuff, right? So you are basically presenting yourself as someone that is unclear on what is the career path that you forged until now, what is the cohesion of your profile so far, and where you want to go, right? So this creates also challenges in knowing where to direct your efforts for yourself, for your growth in a sustainable way. Because if it's always like this, that means that it's not sustainable, right? At the same time, what happens also as a consequence is you gonna still find perhaps even more, you will find even more job insecurity. In your mind, you might think that, oh, if I'm presenting myself as like someone that can do all of these things, can take all of these roles, you are basically projecting an image of insecurity and a little bit of desperation sometimes. You know, it all depends of what the level of what we're talking about here, right? So because of that, people will naturally take the cheapest title that they can, you know, use yourself as, and maybe even if it's not like the cheapest title or the cheapest role, they don't see you as someone long term. So this actually, in terms of like job insecurity or security, depending on how you look at it, it's actually something that's not going to work, you know, in your favor. You may think that, oh, if I have like all these things, that means that I have a better chance to be hired, but in fact that leads to inconsistent specialization, and the more you go on these things, the more yo-yo your career will turn out to be, right? And at the end, of course, what happens is you're gonna feel like a lack of fulfillment, because of course you would like, I'm pretty sure you would like to be at, you know, in the top roles. You would like to be seen as someone with a seat at the table, but because you are presenting yourself in this way, you know, today is one thing, tomorrow is another thing, and next month perhaps it's a different thing even. I mean, it's not going to be, you're not going to be fulfilled, right? You're not going to be fulfilled because the fulfillment comes from the fact that you are achieving progression in your career. And this way, you're not achieving any progression. You're just like taking whatever thing comes your way, right? And of course, that then leads to confusion on your career path, confusion on, you know, on yourself, but also externally, confusion about like whoever is on the other side look at you confused as well, and probably that's enough for that person to put you aside in terms of like the names to be considered for a certain role, right? And then at the end of all this, the consequence is also the financial instability, because different roles, they have different income levels, and most likely if you present yourself like this, probably people will take advantage of that, because that's a clear indication that you are a little bit desperate, you take whatever comes your way. And all these things, that they mean many different you know, salaries as well, right? So to solve this problem, you need to identify for yourself your long-term goals. You need to specialize, because this is how the industry works. Even with all these advancements in AI and whatever, all that kind of stuff will only cause confusion. If you are basically going into pursuing like into all these different shiny objects, then next thing you know, you're going to be lost already. Because what's relevant, you think in your mind, what's relevant today, then tomorrow comes another thing, and that thing that was relevant today becomes irrelevant. And it's not like, it doesn't work like that, necessarily speaking. It's good and it's advisable that you are aware of all these things around you, but not to a point that you're going to be lost, right? So a way also to solve the problem is to focus on the roles that align with the things that you want to pursue for yourself, that then will lead you to take certain actions to build your profile as a certain specialist in a certain area of hierarchy, okay? Another way that is attached to this is also setting personal boundaries on the types of the roles that you've been presented with, and the ones that you say yes and the ones that you say no. Even if it costs you money, it's more advantageous for you that you sacrifice a little bit of that side of things rather than the opposite, because it's way easier to recover money than it's easier to recover your career trajectory. I've met many people that for different reasons, and life is real and you have bills to pay, and I totally get that, right? And sometimes you need to do whatever you need to do, and I get that. But a lot of times, even in different times in the industry, what I've seen is people basically sacrificing all the effort that they put in their careers that took them to, say, for example, supervision role. And just because inside the company that might have like a slightly bigger profile in comparison to the one that you are supervising in, you're going to basically give away that title, and it's not the title by itself, it's basically what that means in terms of like your effort, just because that it has a slightly higher profile than the one that you came from. Depending on what the level we're talking about here, what I'm saying in terms of like examples is that the level between these two sides, these two companies, is not that different that will be enough or will be advisable for the person to give out their title, meaning their role, meaning their effort until they got there, just because now they're gonna work like in one of the top 3 companies when they came from one of the top 5 or top 10. Okay, once you give it away the title, you don't know when you're going to recover that title, and that will contribute for the yo-yo that I said before. So it's way better that you aim for a steady career trajectory rather than, you know, project A or project B or company A or company B. Okay, because if you don't do that, then you're not establishing yourself as someone, for example, if you're already in a leadership role, as someone that is constantly developing your skill set from that point of view, which is very different. And if it's not, that's also a problem, should be very different from an artistic role. You come from an artistic role, but if you go into a leadership role, then it's a different game. And if it's not a different game, that's already part of the problem. And in the great majority of the cases, that's exactly what happens in the industry, and that's why we have so many problems in the industry. It's because people that are normally, of course there's exceptions to this, but you know, the majority of the people that are in these roles, they naturally came from an artistic background, and that mindset is still there. They didn't transition from the mindset of an artist to become now a supervisor. Supervision is a completely different skill set that you need to have, and if you don't have it, you need to develop it. As simple as this. And this is not only in this industry, by the way. If this happens in different industries, ours is no different. Okay, so if you find yourself in a situation like this, you have the power of putting a stop to this. As I said before, list the title as you see yourself in, or as you'd like to see yourself in. Don't accumulate titles in the hopes that you're going to be hired more easily, because that can actually work against you. As I said before, it can work against you, especially long term, mid-term or short term also, because that probably will have an influence on how much you will earn. Take into account that you're presenting yourself as whatever it takes, right? So it's not a good strategy. I've seen many people making this mistake. And I've met people that asked my advice. I advised them exactly the way that I said before. They didn't take the advice, which is totally fair. And then a couple of months later, they came back to me saying that actually you were right, because now I don't know when I'll be able to reach to that position again, because I gave it away. And that's just how it goes, right? It's easier, as I said before, it's easier to recover the money side of things if you sacrifice that short term, rather than giving away all the effort, sweat, and tears that you had to endure to get to that position. It's not the title itself, it's everything that you had accumulated until you are able to reach to that level. Okay? It all depends on what the level is between the trade, between company A to company B, but in general, you should stick to the things that you've earned, because you've earned it. Nobody gave it for free, right? You've earned it. So I think that's a very, very important thing to have in mind. As I said before, I understand that different countries operate differently. They have the industry works slightly different in different countries. I understand that. But if your aim is to work at the international level in visual effects work with specialization. And if you're presenting yourself as, okay, this is all I can do, and you can hire me in whatever these roles, I mean, it creates a lot of confusion, and it's not going to work for you at all. So that's what I would like to talk to you about today, because more and more I think I see more people doing this. And I understand that times these days are tougher from what happened in the past, but it's not the first time that the industry is in this situation. The industry goes up and down, like any market. So it will not stay like this forever. So don't embark on that kind of what it can be considered as something like a desperate move. I understand that sometimes you need to make a decision for your life, and I totally get that. But if you can avoid it, okay? And even if you need to take an offer that is lower in terms of salary, that's a different aspect from what I'm talking about in terms of accumulating titles and projecting yourself in a confused way. Because trust me, people that receive your profile in that way will put you in a bucket that is not going to be favorable to you. Okay? So I hope this makes sense, guys. This is the stuff that I would like to talk to you today. And if you need help building career success and avoiding all these mistakes and many others, okay, and building your expertise into a level that you've never thought that you could achieve before, and achieving the success and basically results, click in the link below and add yourself to the waiting list for the next level program. And then if you find that you're a right fit, my team will get in touch with you and we'll take things from there. But another thing that we also made available for you guys for free, it's our Growth Ready scorecard. So basically you're going to be prompted with a few questions, and at the end you're going to receive a full report, 9-page report with your score and suggestions on how to improve your score in different areas. So what the scorecard will give you is basically an assessment on how you are developing your skill or skills for career growth in your trajectory in your career, right? So one of these two options are available to you, and I hope to see you very soon. Hope you liked it, guys, and speak soon. Bye-bye.